All right, BlackTree TV. Special guest today. I'm here with Mr. Craig Hodges. I like to call him my friend, inspiration, my brother in spirit. But beyond that, and more relevant to today's topic, he is a three-time three-point champion and still holds the records for the most three-pointers consecutively in the championship, and a four-time NBA champion, two times as a assistant coach with the LA Lakers, coaching the late great Kobe Bryant,
Yes,
and
sir.
two times as a player with the Chicago Bulls, with playing alongside Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Grant and a lot of great players. And everybody's been watching The Last Dance. So before we even get into that, I know it's been Corona season and all this stuff, and you being from Chicago and everything else. How you been dealing with that? And you're in good health. Everybody good. How's that?
Yeah. First of all, brother, I want to thank you for all you do as far as getting the message to our people in a way that we can understand it, and the fact that you're on the front line of broadcast media is something that we need to appreciate more. But all's been well, man. I think all of us probably went through it in January and February here in Chicago. Especially we were here for All-Star Weekend. The week prior to All-Star Weekend, it was the Chicago Auto Show and Valentine's Day weekend. All of that was tied into like 14 days together. So, and the virus had been in America. So a lot of us, I think, went through it during that period, because myself, my sons, we were all sick during that period of time.
Yeah.
After All-Star Weekend.
Yeah. I was around the same time. I was actually even a little bit before that. I felt a little sick around January 10th, January 11th, and I was all the way through like the 28th of January.
Yeah, mine. And the thing, like I tell people, for me, it was Dayquil and NyQuil just to get me moving, man. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't gonna let myself lay down, so it was one of those things. Granny always told me, "Boy, if you're feeling sick, make sure you're able to get up, get yourself up."
Yeah. So I mean, have you been watching the Last Dance? I know you lived it. I know
It's been cool, man. To see it from that perspective. I was part of the first two. So the third one was more, to me, more touching to me, as far as still having a connection to the team and the like, and just to see what went down for the last three was something interesting to sit back, good entertainment. Of course, that's what for me, I always make sure that even with the couple people we watched together, my son and one of his buddies, and I'm saying at that time we're looking at it, it's a commercial product, man. And for me, the biggest thing for me with this whole project, Jamaal, is the timing of it all. It's incredible to me.
Yeah. Before we even get into the 91 and 92 championships, take us back. You're a Chicago kid, travel all the way to California, going to Long Beach State, get drafted to the Clippers. How was that moment, just like realizing that part of your dream to become an NBA player, and how did it feel to get drafted,
Well, the biggest thing, is like, okay, you're going through college and you're doing your thing, and you wanna make sure that you're prepared. So, I was blessed to have Tex Winter, man, for 4 years, and when Tex signed me at Long Beach State, he told me, if you stay here with me for 4 years, I guarantee you'll be in somebody's training camp. And as a young brother coming from the city of Chicago, watching Norm Van Leer and the Chicago Bulls struggle to get to that point, for me, it was one of those things where I'm going to go and study as hard as I can in the classroom. And I had great mentors in my Black studies at Long Beach State, Dr. Karinga, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, rest his soul. So I had good brothers, Amin Rob, brothers who taught me a lot about the realization of what the impact of what I did sports-wise, how I could impact my people. So, watching all this stuff go on and watching MJ and the whole aura around that, and seeing how that relates to Black people is something to see, man. And sometimes look at it, you don't want to be too critical because it's entertainment, but at the same time, with all the stuff that's going on as real life, it's something to see the timing of it all.
Yeah. Obviously, like you was drafted by the Clippers, and you I think you moved to a couple teams before you got to the Bulls. But you were there not only for those first two championships, but the rise up when we seen in the Last Dance the battles against the Pistons, and I mean, how was it playing against those players and like playing against Isaiah? Like, can you take us through like how bad were the Bad Boys as an opponent?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I tell people. You have to learn the chemistry. You have to learn the nuances. You have to learn how to win. And it's not something that just happens. It's something that's an experience. You have to experience the lumps. You have to experience the degrading feeling of losing and not being able to stand up for your hometown and go through that, and then be able to put the blinders on the next season to be able to say, our team was much more athletic than the Pistons were. They wanted to use their physicality to be able to stop Forrest and Scotty from being able to get off the ground and, be able to go up and rebound the basketball and splash to the bucket. And then once we figured out that it was just a matter of mental toughness, not even, Michael and some of the guys, they went and got more weight training or whatever. But I think at that point in time, it was more mental toughness that got us through it more than the actual physicality of it, that we had to be mentally sharp in our approach, whether it was how we were playing deep team concepts or how we were going to make sure we covered MJ when he went to the basket. We weren't going to let any of them get around him and stand over. We ran to pick each other up and just stay on our mission and not focus on their physicality.
Now Oakley was on those early teams. How was it playing with Oakley? And I mean, when they made the call to move Oakley to New York, I mean, how did you feel as a teammate at that point about that decision?
For me, I was in Phoenix at the time. So I was in Phoenix when Bill got traded for Charles. So I never had a chance to be a teammate of Oakley's. But I understand how integral he was prior to me getting there and playing against the Bulls at that time, as far as being there and Forrest or being there. The guy that does the dirty works off the boards, played good, hard defense in the paint. So it was one of those things you knew of his, and you respected his game. And then, with Bill, it was always, you knew who Bill Cartwright was. He was one of those, young brothers that when I was in high school, I was looking up to the University of San Francisco teams that he was a part of. So I understood Bill's character as well as Charles, but sometimes it's just a touch here and a touch there that builds the chemistry of a team and puts the pieces in places so that it can flow better as a combined unit.
Yeah. So the Jordan rules, I mean, well, you were there during Doug Collins too, right?
Yeah. I came in I was part of Doug's last year, and Doug was a great coach, man. Had big fun with him. He was a player's type of coach because he understood being a player himself. But at the same time, Doug asked a lot of not only of himself but of his players. And I think if you weren't mentally tough, sometimes you would look at it as being, Doug being not so much heavy-handed, but so if you didn't perform, Doug wasn't going to give you maybe a second or third look. He's ready to get it done. Let's find somebody that can do it right now. Where, some young players that can be detrimental to their growth, but at the same time, Doug was about winning, man, and he loved to win, and he was going to try to get it done with the troops that he had, and the way that he wanted to do it was play more isolation basketball where Phil and with Tex in his ear. During that time, Tex was telling him he should run triangle, but Doug didn't really want to hear it. And then finally, I think Jerry Krause, who loved Tex and understood the impact of what the triangle could bring to the complement of players that we had. And proof was in the pudding, man. The system is flawless when we're talking about giving players an opportunity to touch the basketball. But then the biggest thing to me is you get in touches, you're going to play better defense.
So I mean, that transition, and it's interesting that you're such a connecting part of this story, even though we don't see it played out as much on the ESPN version of the story. But your connection to Tex Winter goes back to Long Beach State, and now here he is, assistant coach with Phil, about to make the transition to be Phil head coach and him being the assistant coach, and y'all moving into the championship years. how much? I mean, how easy was it for you to I mean, did y'all do the triangle at Long Beach? And was this something that a system that you was already feel like? How easy was it for you to, as a player, to transition into this new form?
For me, it was like, man, it was like a fish to water. You know, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was almost like, you know, you have one of the things where you used to mom's home cooking, and then you go on the road, you go to college, you go to college, you go to college, and you come back home for that Sunday meal, and you feel right back at home in your old seat. And that's what it was like for me, you know, understanding that I had the triangle for 4 years under Tech, and I understood it like the back of my hand. So a lot of stuff when they're talking about the implementation of the triangle, it was me and Tex, man. It was Tex and I standing in the half court, showing how the guards flow first. Then it was Tex at the top, at the top of the circle with the ball, me on the wing, and we showed the entirety of the system with two players, with the guy standing on the end line and watching and taking notes. So from that standpoint, it's a me and Tex. That's my basketball father, man. So you know all the stuff I learned at Long Beach, I use now when I'm teaching the game. And he told us the first day of practice, anything and everything you know about the game of basketball, you can forget it. You know, because I've forgotten more basketball than you could ever know. So we're gonna give you something to play in the right way.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that was implemented that triangle, but how was it at practice? I got this superstar athlete, and you know the way he's portrayed, he's brash, he's talking trash all the time. I mean, definitely definitely arguably not even really arguably the greatest NBA player that's played. What was that environment like at practice? And then I want you to compare it to, because now you also coach Kobe. I want to know, like, when you look at those two different.
Right. You know the common denominator between both of them is that not only are they superstar talent, God-given athletes, but they realize the impact and the importance of being coached. So people on the outside, you can look at this Last Dance, and you can look at all of the scenes where Michael is basically separated from the team, and he's sitting with his security guys. He's standing there in a pack of reporters. That's just one person that's part of a cog of anywhere between 14 to 15 people, including coaches, at any given time, and that you have to fit however big you are into the complement of who we are, and it can't be vice versa. All 14 of us can't fit into number 23. So it's one of those things where he received coaching as well as anybody I've ever played with. He brought the intensity in not only scrimmage, but in drill work that made everybody around him take their game to a level, even if you thought your game was at a certain level. So those are the intangibles that superstars bring, and oftentimes for them to try to teach it is totally impossibility. When you look at Magic and Bird, who were great players, but their coaching wasn't that it was okay. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard. It's hard to relate greatness. You know what I'm saying? In a 1, 2, 3 method in practice. Greatness is something that emerges during the experience. So within the context of our practices, man, that's why I tell people like now, I always think in terms of, I watch basketball, but our practices were so cold. You know what I'm saying? We would practice for 20 minutes and Phil would have to shut it down because it would be game-like intensity. And it would be a thing where we don't need this in practice. We need this tomorrow night. But the way we took it as it was the greatest competition on earth, man. We had to, I look at our second 5 on that first championship, we probably would have been in the championship had we facing our first 5 had we been on a different team. So it was running the same system, of course, because the triangle, that's the beautiful part of the triangle. I could give you what it is, a working document, but we won't know how it's going to unfold until we see how the defense presents itself. And that's what we gave to one another every day in practice was different looks, so that now when the season came, as it wound down to the playoffs, as we got into the playoffs, very rarely did we have to make monumental decisions and changes to the way we play basketball, to where we could throw a wrinkle defensively at another team, and it's going to take them totally out of what they're used to doing because they only have one primary ball handler, where within our system we have myriad things that we can do and options that we have. So it was great to play out of, and with the whole thing of coaxing MJ didn't really want the triangle because he was getting the ball all the time and he was getting to do and be whoever he wanted to be. But at the same time, he understood that, you look at Magic, you look at Bird, you look at Isaiah, who were the previous winners of championship, and you look at their complement. They had at least 2 other superstars with them. So who are you going to bring along with you to get us to this point? And that was, I think, the thing that, the system brought was him to see a way that, yeah, this is going to work. It's not going to be what I thought it was going to be. It's not a college offense. He had came from what he considered the best. He loves his North Carolina and his respect. But at the same time, to me, Tex Winter is the greatest innovator of the game for it to be played from now throughout the ages. If it's five men playing the game, unless you're going to change it somehow.
The number that Terry Porter will have to beat. This is where Craig got it going, right here in this spot on the floor. He made all 5 of them, including the money ball. Now we'll see if Porter's strategy pays off for him.
Now Porter must meet the pressure because his highest score has been 14.
See Dominique Wilkins, John Sally, Magic Johnson, Chris Mullen in your picture there, watching the long distance shootout on the sideline. Craig Hodges with 17 points.
Since this came on, how many people, the relevancy of who I was and the part that I was part and parcel of the team, historically, we look at things and we only look at Scotty and Horace and MJ, maybe Bill, Pack, Steve Kerr. That's, maybe throw BJ in there. But everybody else is almost you were. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
You were a throw-in. You were a Jordan-aire. I laugh at all of that because when Bill and I came to the team, we both had more playoff experience than any of them, any of the guys. So we always were in the locker room. That seniority carries weight. So playoff experience is the seniority. So Bill and I had seniority in the locker room. So it's funny, the outward facade is Michael and the Jordan-aire. But that wasn't our practice. That wasn't our bus. That wasn't our plane. That wasn't our practice site. That it was a certain pecking order, and the pecking order goes in years of experience and years of service. So regardless of who you may be, whether you the second or third year superstar, yeah, you might beat all that. But in here, the pecking order is Bill Cartwright, Craig Hodges, Cliff Levingston, along those lines. And then, we get to that. But on the outward, it's that public persona and the private persona. And so we know.
Obviously, something happened. I know.
MJ was MJ, and we loved it.
I said, obviously, something. Happening. I personal to me, since I know you, I know a lot of the story. But everybody's online saying, just like you said, where's Craig? We see him. It's almost as if they try to cut the camera right when you coming in the frame and everything else. And we know that there was a lot of beef between Jerry Krause and Scottie Pippen that we see in these episodes. But your story is a lot different, and we're about to get into that part. But did you have a lot of beef with was there any friction with the ownership, or is it?
And that's the funny part for me is that a lot can be said from the book that Phil Jackson gave me. Phil Jackson, when we started the reading projects, the first book that he gave me was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And that's who I am. That was a great framing of the way I carry myself and the way that I am. I'm peaceful, but I'm a warrior for the rights and causes of human rights not only mine and my people, but anybody else that deserves them, and that's everybody. So from that standpoint, you know, it was cool to just be in that area where we are, man. You know, where we are right now is we're blessed, and I look at it as a blessing to be able to, you know, facilitate some thought process in this whole thing, man, because it's so commercial that we get lost in the mix.
Yeah. Nobody ever reached out to you about this Last Dance for an interview or anything? Like, I mean, from the official.
And the funny part for me is that, you know, that when I look at that, I look at all my teammates, and I'm loving seeing them, man. And just like last night, I saw the one with Horace, when MJ says that it was Horace who told the Jordan rule, and that was, you know, once again, that was kind of wild to me. You know, I love my brother's game, but you know, last week it was Scotty that was selfish because he wanted a great contract for him and his family. We all wanted him. Who doesn't to this day? So that was kind of odd to me. The part about the cocaine circus was odd to me. Horace,
Your sound went out, Craig. Your sound went out.
you got me?
Yeah. Start back from, you just said Horace. Start back from there.
So like when I look at when last night with the Horace situation and going back with the Scotty being selfish, Horace being the one that told Sam Smith for the Jordan rules, the early series part where he talked about the cocaine circus, and I'm like, you know, within the culture where y'all at the younger generation, we talk about, would that be considered snitching? You know what I'm saying? And not snitching on any level, but it's certain things that we teammates, man, and that, you know, like with Horace, okay, the stuff with Scotty, that was kind of, okay, I can get it. Stuff with cocaine circus, I can get it. But Horace, that was hurtful to me. That hurt me because Horace, to me, great teammate. I can't say great enough. You follow me? We wouldn't have won championships without the brother, and that just hurt me for what we worked for and strive for, and that it's a brotherhood, man. So some of the things I think that have been said, none of us would ever think about, I don't know, coming at MJ that way with it not being like with me. A lot of people say I have a beef with him. No, I have a beef with, I love my people. And whatever is affecting black people, I'm going to question it. So, you know, I'm sure it's going to be some stuff that's going to come out where it's going to be a time for me to discuss these positions that have been taken.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I can't skirt them. You know, people are asking me about them. People are questioning me about them. And by right, they should, because it's a question, I'm going to answer it. So it's going to be time. And it's time now that, you know, we wake up to the commercial reality. Commercial reality like they showed us last night. David Falk and Pro Serve marketed Michael Jordan as an individual. What is the impact of that on the black community? What is the impact of that on the sport itself? So a lot of questions and a lot of things that I feel about the whole of it was part and parcel my black studies. You know what I'm saying? So we studied the impact of the black athlete in America. We studied the impact of the black economic condition in America and the impact that it has on America. So when we watch how the NBA is scrambling to finish the season, what does that mean? How? Why is that so important? And, you know, and thing like I'm saying now to my people, stay in the house as best you can. Yeah, I understand. Go out and get you some exercise. Keep your distance. Understand? Could this be possible that this is the Passover for real? Not that thing that we read back in the day, that this is the real Passover, and that It's something that's very real in our lives right now. We in it. We're in it. This isn't something that was told in the Bible 2,000 years ago. We're in the point where they say, stay in the crib. This thing is coming through, and I'm saying stay in the crib and research. This is the time that we ain't had before when they're sending you money in the mail, money in your account, and we black men, and it's so cold, Jamaal, when you think about it, we black men, and now you can put on a mask and actually walk in the store.
Yeah.
When a week ago, if you walk in there with a hoodie on, it might be a problem.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I know the last episode touched on Jordan's activism and the Republicans wear Jordans to comment. It seemed like they simplified that whole stance on part of the community feeling like Jordan wasn't supporting the black community to just that topic. But from being in it, it wasn't just the North Carolina election. It was other things that people were like asking him to be a part of.
And this is the thing, man, is that to whom much is given, much is required, and it ain't on none of us to spend somebody else's money. Okay? Yeah. So when we see all that we see, you wake up at 2:00 in the morning, you see Michael Jordan on a McDonald's commercial. You wake up at 7:00 to get your children off to school, you see him in a Nike commercial. You could come back home, you see him in a Hanes commercial. You see all of these tentacles of wealth and prosperity, but none of it's trickling down to your community. So now, do you speak on it? Do you try to balance it? Me, I tried to balance it. I didn't want to go after my brother, but at one point in time, Nike was being boycotted by Push organization. That's my people. I grew up in Operation Push and Operation Breadbasket. So I have to. This ain't about no gym shoes and no, this is about my people, and we having a problem with not being able to get any resources in our community, but at the same time, we are the ones that are consuming it like no other. So like last night, that bothered me when I saw, okay, I don't know enough about, the brother Gant. And then I'm saying, okay, brother, I get it. I understand we got to buy gym shoes and we have to sell these shoes. But at the same time, what is the impact that it's having on our community? You know what I'm saying? We have to make sure that at this point in time, we are having an impact that's solid and viable. And it's not just a thing where I'm worried about how many shoe sales I'm going to have, or if I'm going to have shoe sales today, or what is it going to be? It can't be that. It has to be a thing where I got to be responsible, because the people who are selling the shoe, this is my thing. The people who are selling the shoes, they're committed to making sure that their communities are solvent, that their dollars are circulating within their communities when they go back to gated communities. But we don't have that. We living in scarcity, not abundance.
Well, I was going to ask this question first about a team that you compare to that era. But as we're talking about this activism and speaking up and people that are doing it, like what athletes from this era, because I spoke about Muhammad Ali and how he was great and all the greatness that he did in fighting for his community and speaking up. What athletes today do you see that exemplify, that spirit, that would be on course with?
Right. And see, once again, like you say, it's a fabric, man. It's a remnant, and it's a thread that runs through generationally. And then the brothers and sisters who grab hold of that thread and try to weave whatever tapestry they can weave to make sure that it gets to the next generation in part or parcel, but make sure that they get the message. And for me, when I look at LeBron, when I look at what Colin Kaepernick did and raising the consciousness of people, and when I talk about Colin, I tell people, when I look at Black women who got off the couch and said, I ain't watching that TV no more, even though I love watching them brothers run around. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So it was a groundswell of support that was behind him in this generational time with social media. So I look at the Chris Paul, I look at You know, like when I look at the rank and file of the players union in the NBA, all of the brothers are basically conscious and understanding. You know, you doing that just by what you got in on your headphones. So now it's how do I commercially make myself comfortable, whether it be endorsements, whether it be whatever. We have to see how can we balance that, man. So I love what LeBron is doing. And I always point out LeBron because he's producing black entertainment. And you know, I'm gonna take that back. He's producing real entertainment. So when I look at the story of Madam C.J. Walker, that ain't a black story to me. That's a story. You know what I'm saying? And in the tapestry of who we are as a people, we've had to categorize it as black when in fact it's demonstrably better than that what we call American, which has been fostered under white. So when you look at those stories of greatness and those stories that have come out of, you know, you look at LeBron James, that's a great story of success, man. You know what I'm saying? Coming from the wood and being able to be presence of mind to want to give back and want to make the next generation and to raise your young boys so that they can be great young men. That is awesome, man. And that's the part that I think sometimes mainstream media, like with you, the fact that when you're on a red carpet, man, the brothers and sisters who have reached a certain stature, they won't holler at you because they so busy trying to break their neck to get to whatever tonight show it is that I got to be on with this because it's going to take my following to a max. But what about your grassroots following that when all this Instagram and stuff like now, we under the lockdown, yeah, we can go social media, but what about your grassroots following? Like for me, I feel so great, and I want to thank all the people that's watching you and listening to you for the groundswell of support just during this part, saying, damn, where Hodge at, man? You know what I'm saying? I remember that brother being part of them squads when Detroit was kicking ass, but that brother was shooting jumpers on him, man. And that type of thing for me has been cool for me to see that I'm relevant, not just relevant because I want to be relevant, no, because what I did in the game is relevant to the legacy of the game and the legacy of the brother that we watching in this thing called The Last Dance.
What made you such a 3-point technician? I mean, what did you do different than everybody? I mean, when you look at Steph Curry and people like, I mean, your shot was. In fact, I played with you some years ago. Your shot still wet, but I mean, like, what was it that you did as just an athlete to make that made your shot different at all?
Well, I think one of the things that I tell people, I grew up in Chicago Heights at my elementary school, Gavin Elementary School, and I shot for hours, man, hours. And little did I know that when it would become about 7 o'clock, when it got dusk, that the only way I could see the rim was to go in the corner and shoot because the light was going down, the sun was going down, and I could see the rim from that angle. And now when I look at how proficient I was out of the corners, you know, I look back at them times when I was out there grinding, putting my jumpers up. And, you know, I came through and we were coming through during that time when it was the karate boom from everybody watching Bruce Lee, the brothers that's gotten to, you know, creating dojos in the community. And I would go out and work on my game, and I would see these brothers coming up doing their Tai Chi, and they would have these dogs who would sit there like statues while they were doing Tai Chi. And in my mind, I was like, if them dogs can sit there for that many hours, I can stand out here and shoot. So years later, the brothers came to me when I was in the league, and they say, man, we've been wanting to talk to you. You remember when we would be on the school ground doing our Tai Chi? I was like, yeah, man, I would be shooting my jumpers, and I would not gonna let them dogs outlast me on the court. They said, man, you know what? We said we weren't gonna let that little boy stand over there and shoot more than we could do Tai Chi. They said we couldn't wait for you to dribble your ball around that corner. It was the same thing for me. I couldn't wait for the dogs to break down and break camp. I'd be like, good, I got them today. And those type of things, little do we know that those are sharpening, if nothing else, our eye. And that's what I say, shooting in the twilight, it sharpened my eye on a point in space that I look at. So when I ask people when I'm first teaching them how to shoot or talking to them about shooting is, what are you looking at? And a lot of people, well, I'm looking at the back of the rim. You're not 12 feet tall, so you're looking underneath the rim, so you're going to come up short 90% of the time. And I ask them, where do you miss your shot at? I'm usually short. Yeah, because you're hitting exactly what you're looking at. Because your ball is going to go where you're looking at. And I think those are the training methods that, when I look at Steph Curry, I tell people, if you didn't shot the ball, you can see what Steph is doing. But if you never shot the ball, you can't tell that his release angle from 14 feet is a total different release from 40 feet. And as a shooter, you know the different release angles and points that you have to get the ball to where you want it to go. And it's not brain surgery. It's not trying to save black people for sure. You know what I'm saying? It's a game, and I enjoyed watching the ball going in the basket. And when I look at research, I like this quarantine. It's lovely for me. I have no problem sitting in the crib studying, doing my push-ups, doing my crunchies, and doing what I need to do to make sure I maintain that when we come out of here, we're strong and we're ready to make sure what we can think about, we can actually go out and do.
What team today? I mean, this season is over with right now. Let's put everybody healthy, everybody whatever. What team in today's game do you think, or maybe a recent championship team, do you think could have gave that 91, 92? In fact, I mean, do you think one of those teams are better than the 91 and 92?
One of the things I say, and this ain't just because I was on the team, man. Our first championship team, I feel like could have beat any championship team in history. Now the question becomes, what rules are we playing under? If we're playing under 1950 rules, it's going to be tough for anybody to beat us. If we're playing under the physicality of the 70s and 80s, I think we could have handled that because we did. No one played more physical brand of basketball than the Detroit Pistons, because Detroit Pistons were coming off of the Celtics and the Lakers. And if anybody goes back and watch a Celtic and Philadelphia 76ers Eastern Conference final, and you'll see Dr. J and Larry Bird actually get into a fight and no technical fouls are called. No flagrant fouls are called. It's like, okay, y'all finished? All right, let's hoop. And that was the physicality of the game, along with there was a certain thing that, hey, man, we're going to get heated out here. But at that time, it was a thing called no harm, no foul. Wasn't no harm, it wasn't no foul. Let's get it on. So it's a thing where everybody, we have to protect our investments. So some of this stuff, and now the game is taken so personal, you couldn't have two guys face up in competition like that and it just be, man, Larry was going at me, I was going at him, and we both just got heated, and I bowled him, and he threw a punch, and okay, we let it go, and we kept hooping and going at each other. Now it's going to be some gang symbols thrown up, some brothers coming up out the stands or waiting for you after the game. It's taking a different perspective, brother. So it's that thing where, I look at these teams now, I feel like if we playing under these rules, it wouldn't even be fair, man. If we playing under rules where you can't handshake, how you gonna guard Michael Jordan without a handshake? I couldn't have guarded Isaiah Thomas without a handshake. How? And that's why the game is played the way it game. I would venture to say, I would like to see how that Golden State team would play against us with our physicality under the 1980 rules.
Wow. And lastly, we got to talk about some golf, because I know you love to play golf, and that was something that Jordan, professes a love for. What's the relationship of golf?
Not to cut you off. You know what I was thinking last night, man, on the real? I said, I wonder what our relationship would have been like if I went out and hit the ball with him. And it's so crazy. He offered me to go once or twice, but it was always a thing where I had my boys, I had my sons, you know what I'm saying? So the timing just wasn't right, and it never happened. You know, but even to this day, I would love to get the ball winning because see, with me, man, I ain't carrying no grudges in this thing. I love my people. Now, I love your game. I love what you've done in the game. I feel like visible, vocal leadership is necessary right now. And I ain't saying this, that you ain't got to be the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King leader, but most surely with the amount of visible access you have to generational, whether it be above or younger than us, brother, do we utilize that? Them are my questions. Do we utilize that? I understand like you said last night, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this lifestyle. I got it. You know what I'm saying? I got it, but we can't get tired of black people.
Yeah. I feel that, man. There's so much more to talk about, man. I hope I know we'll tap in again.
Oh man, we got to do it, and that's the thing, brother. Like I said, when we talked when I was out in LA about being able to put as much content together so we can start to do more things. I think this is a critical hour, in as far as our people are concerned, and how we come out of quarantine, and do we come out in a more unified, mature manner, as opposed to coming out being like we were worse than when we went in. That my thing is that if nothing else, we can come out in better condition, work on our muscle groups, and the number one muscle being our mind and brain power. So let's, and work on just getting your heart rate up twice a day, maybe, before when you get up in the morning and before you go to bed.
I hear that. I hope my audience hears it, man, and we gonna tune in. Tell them, are you on social media also, the artists? Can they follow you on Instagram, or where would they follow you? Where's the best place to follow you on social media where you might be able to connect with them when you
Real Craig Hodges. The Instagram is the real Craig Hodges.
All right, that's a bet.
Yeah, and that's and that's basically that's one of my young brothers that I coached up in Canada. His handle is Lethal Shooter.
Yeah.
And good young brother, helping a lot of people, teaching the game out in LA. So there's some good stuff going on, man. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, man. So that's us signing off.
And let me tell you,
4 rings, bro. How does that feel, though? I mean, when you look at the other players, you went back from that team, went back, worked with Phil Jackson again, and got 2 more rings as a coach. I mean, I can see it. I don't know if I know they're not showing it on the show, but I can see how interconnected you are to the success of those championship teams, because you was able to even transfer that to come to the Lakers and implement that offense there and work with Kobe and others with shooting. And I mean, you're a true champion on and off the court, man. I appreciate you, man. We gotta have some more of these just to
no doubt about it. And I want to see if we can put together something where we can put together a round table, man. I've been talking to some people and putting out some feelers to where maybe we can do something where we get together in the round table and do the round table, and you tape it, and then we can bring it to the people after we just sat down, in the comfort of ourselves, and then we can bring something that can be, meaningful and long lasting to the next generation of student athletes.
Yeah. Let's do it, brother.
You know it, man. Appreciate you, Dutch. Keep it up, brother.
All right, bro.
Peace.